I am Gene Poole, and I backed into the data side of the world. I didn't ever intend to be dealing with databases, but the applications I use databases. And in supporting and developing them, I ended up having to learn a lot about SQL. And parameter sniffing is one of those things that I backed into in production and learned about quickly. So, figured I'd chat about it with you all this evening. So, parameter sniffing, when you run a query, it goes into the query's executed, and in this case we're talking about a parameterized stored procedure. So you run the query optimizer looks at your parameters and uses that to build the query that goes into the query cache. And then when you run the query again, it uses the cache copy of the query, which is nice because that means you don't have to spend time compiling the query plan every time you need to run your query. This can go bad when your data is unevenly distributed through your table. So let's say with one set of parameters, you pull back 10 results, and another set of parameters will pull back a couple million. In that case, the first time your query optimizer ran for your query, you might not have run with the set of parameters that works well in most cases. And we're going to take a quick look at what that looks like.
This is what happens when parameter sniffing goes wrong. I really feel like that's what it is.
All right, I was sending the function F8 command to the VM. That was not working well. All right, so the setup here. We have a database that is interestingly named.
Could you zoom in on the code? The code comment, I think it's Control plus.
And not taking it.
Okay, we're good.
All right. And interestingly enough, the database is named Sandbox, and I have this table here that just has some coffee inventory information. And have a couple different types of coffees this place sells. And as we scroll down to the bottom, you see I have a lot of duplicate rows that has the same information. So that was the way I mocked up having an uneven distribution of data. So we'll hop over here and just make sure the query cache is clean before I run this. All right, so this first time through, I'm just going to run our stored procedure, which let's take a quick look at that first, which is really just a select, and we pass it a parameter for the name that we want. So we'll run over here, and we're going to run it twice, once with Costa Rica as the country of origin, and a second time with Ethiopia. And let's take a look at the execution plans. So we did a full table scan for both the executions. And I'll hop back over here. And here I'm just running dbcc with FreePop cache to clear the query plan. And I try to stay in the habit of not just running that without a parameter and blowing away everything in the cache. So up here I'm selecting just the query plan before running it. So we'll run back over and we'll run that again. So this time both ran with the table scan. And if we reverse the order and take a look at the execution plan, we see that we have a nested loop. And they both ran with the same plan. And the reason this happened was the first time the query optimizer got a hold of our query, it built the plan, stored it in the cache, and then it ran both times for that. So, a slight change we could make to that is I have with recompile on here. So if we run it with recompile, we can take a look here. And when we look for Costa Rica, which returned 10,000 or so lines, it did a full table scan. And when we were just selecting a few items, it actually used our index. Now, the downside to running with recompile is that you did have to recompile your query each time you ran it. So let's hop back over here. Now, another way that we can work around this is, let's say, with recompile. All right. SQL Server 2005 and 2008 added this option. It's the 4136 flag, and you can tell the query with this option flag to not run with parameter sniffing. So I'm going to run this, and we'll remake our stored procedure. And now, when we run our items, we still get the same plan, but we'll switch it, we'll run it backwards. And this time running Costa Rica first. Previously, we got the table scan when we did this. But this time, they both came up with the nested loop since we changed our stored proc to use the trace query option. And that's all I got for y'all.